People tell us every week that our information has helped save their life. If you agree that this is helpful information, please like, share, and most of all, subscribe, because nothing makes a channel like subscriptions.
Ideal retirement age for your health. Now, somebody decided it was 65. I'm 65 and I have retired 3 times. The last time lasted about 5 hours. That was a little bit longer than I wanted it to last, but it gave me some time to get more energetic. I plan on getting shot out of my saddle. I don't plan on giving up my role. I've been a Sunday school teacher in a Judeo-Christian Methodist environment for several years, and one of my favorite pastors talks about degreasing the Bible, and his point is, for the ancient Hebrews, this thing about having someone else do your work for you is a Greek concept. It was not an ancient Hebrew. It's not biblical at all. We all want to have a role, and the role that we have is part of who we are. And I believe that 100%. I've always believed that. In fact, one of the things we're going to be doing, a friend of mine recently reminded me of a series that we did on having a purpose in life. There were a couple of really, really big studies that underlined this. One of them was the Holocaust survivor study. And what they showed, people that survived the Holocaust died earlier. The opposite was true. They lived longer. So then you might think, well, maybe that's because they were just genetically very robust. Also, the opposite was the case. These people had more diabetes, they had more heart disease, they had more cancer, yet they took a licking and just kept ticking. They continued to live. The point behind it was they had a purpose in life. And when you have a purpose in life, you tend to overcome the challenges that we deal with in terms of health. And you continue to just keep on ticking. There was another study, the Retiree Health Survey, which looked at, it actually epidemiologically had a very interesting component. It had what we call a dose response curve. It was a well-vetted, well-documented survey instrument which measured the amount of purpose in someone's life. The more purpose someone saw in their life, the longer they live. And so you might say, well, what is that purpose? Well, for me, it's doing what we're doing here today and taking care of patients and helping discover that unknown, undiscovered prediabetes, cardiovascular risk. Now, where did this age of 65 come from? So here's a little bit of history. 1881, Otto von Bismarck in Germany proposed the retirement age. The age he proposed was 70. At that point in time, the average life expectancy in Germany was 40 years old. So obviously, he was not expecting a whole lot of people to hit that retirement age number. Years later, that turned to age 65, and that became the model. In 1935, President Roosevelt established age 65 for the United States, despite less than 60% of the U.S. population ever making it that far. Today's average life expectancy in the U.S. is 76. Obviously, that number, or it may not be obvious, but that number took a little bit of a hit during the COVID pandemic, but not as much as you might expect. In France, there's been a lot of news about raising that retirement age, which is 62 now, I think. The life expectancy is 82, and economic pressures of the aging population and national retirement benefits just are driving that decision. And as you may have heard and seen, that decision hasn't been popular with a whole lot of folks there. So that's where this thing about retirement age comes up. Any comments, David, as you hear that?
Well, you taught me some things just now in terms of how that evolved. That is interesting. And I think your comment about your Sunday school class, it's interesting that in the Old Testament, it never talks about retirement, other than the Levites. So the Levites serving the temple at age 50. Otherwise, you had meaning and purpose, and that's exactly right.
So, are older workers capable of working longer? Center for Retirement Research last year. Health span equals work span? Is that the case? That's certainly not that ancient Greek perspective, and that's certainly not this, quote, retirement age perspective. This was an article from Boston College, and it found that Americans who are healthy at age 50 can expect to have roughly 23 more years, major disability, plus 8 years living without disability, meaning a work life expectancy of 73 years. 45% of the American labor force worked in management, business, finance, education, and healthcare. That was only 6% in 1935, and you can probably guess where this is going. The knowledge worker. Dr. Lisa Renzi Hammond from University of Georgia states that knowledge-based positions should not retire until age 70. One study suggested mental and physical health decline when retiring. And you know what? He was doing well until he retired. And then he just sort of, within a couple of years, dementia started to have an impact. His life sort of just went to pot. Any comments about that, David?
Without a doubt, I've seen over my career people that retired were less healthy, especially in that first couple of years. I had lots of folks have major health problems in the first 12 to 18 months after retirement. I don't think that was a coincidence because I had other people their same age with their same comorbidities, but were still working that didn't have those problems. So I'm not surprised to see some of these studies.
You know, those warnings on like packs of cigarette and alcohol and things like that, I think they ought to have one for retirement as well. Warning, the retiring can be dangerous for your health. You need to have another purpose ready to take up when you retire.